All right, hello everybody. This is Mr. Herman. I'm going to do my interview with my neighbor, Mark Schnelle. I thought it'd be a good way to kind of show you how I would like you to do this, and then give you a little bit of information about another part of the ag industry. So, Mark, if you don't mind, if you could tell us how would you describe your job?
Well, basically, we handle hay and straw and feed, bagged horse feed for mostly just racetracks and farms in Chester County. We basically will work as an agent for the trainers at the racetrack to try to find them exactly the type of quality of hay and straw that they want. And with our experience, then we can usually pick the phone up and have it delivered, and we'll deliver it also to mid-Atlantic racetracks.
So are you kind of like a middleman between, like, say, the person who's growing the hay and harvesting it versus the end user?
That's correct. We started probably 30 years ago baling hay and selling it, and we started to advertise in the newspaper, and back then that was the way to advertise, and the phone just never stopped ringing, so we got into more buying and selling, and so we would technically be a broker.
So what would you consider like your smallest customer to be? Like how much hay would they have to buy, or say maybe how much sales would they have to give you in order to be a customer?
We like to take care of everybody. We do maybe about a 50 to 100 mile radius. I've had customers with just one or two ponies in their backyard, but they need a special type of hay. Maybe it's a show horse and they want to try to get the pony to be real, what the old timers would call slick and shiny, so they need a special type of alfalfa to do that. So we'll work with them, and I used to have customers up around Valley Forge, and we deliver up there. And then we've got big trainers. They may have 100, 120 brood mares and race horses, and then at the racetrack, we have oftentimes have people just have a couple horses, and then some people that have 10 to 20 horses.
Okay. And you kind of described it a little bit already, but is there anything else like your day-to-day tasks that, like what would the day in the life of your job look like?
Basically, I'll start probably on the track early in the morning, walking the grounds, and we'll walk to a racetrack. A big racetrack may have 50 barns, and we maybe walk 20, 30, 40 of the barns and talk to the customer with a clipboard in hand, take their orders, go back to our lot, and try to put it together with our 3 or 4 guys to make the deliveries during the day.
Okay, gotcha. And then, so what time would you say you normally start and end by?
It depends. During the season, we have gotten there. We used to start at 5:36, and then we'll work till 4 or 5 until the work's done.
Okay, so
Yeah.
all right, gotcha. And then this is a full-time job for you?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And would you say some weeks you're working outside that 40-hour typical work week?
At least we work when the horses, like race horses, will travel in the summertime. They'll be up north in this mid-Atlantic area. In the wintertime, they'll go back down to Florida, Louisiana, and New Orleans. And so basically, we slow down a little bit in the wintertime. There's a few racetracks that stay open all winter, and so we service them, like at Parks in Philadelphia and Harrisburg. They'll be here year-round, so we'll be there. But we're much busier in the summer.
Gotcha. And what type of education would you need to run a business like yourself?
I don't have a lot of education. I have a 2-year degree in the University of Delaware with the agricultural, what they call agribusiness, and that helped me a lot. And took some courses, and they actually taught us, the agronomists, the PhD agronomists would teach us about hay, and that was very, very helpful. And I think that would be helpful for somebody that wanted to start their own business, plus some business education too.
Okay, that makes sense. It's good to hear. And so could you talk a little bit about the impact you have on the industry? Because I don't think
Sure.
a lot of our students, or really people in general that have moved here in the last 20 years, know how big the horse industry is in our little Tri-County area here.
Yeah, it's a very, very big industry with the show horses, the race horses, brood mares, and pleasure horses too. We have a lot of customers with just 2 or 3 horses in their backyard, and we have the natural resources at Fair Hill, which a lot of people you'll see in their trailers just on nice days going down to ride. The industry itself is huge, and you can also wouldn't have to limit it to horses, you could also buy and sell mulch hay, because we live in the biggest mushroom industry in this area, and that's a very, very, and they're always looking to buy mulch hay and big bales and things like that, and so that you could branch off into that also.
Which is a neat avenue for someone who's growing hay, that if it gets a little rain on it or it's full of weeds,
Definitely.
instead of trash, they can take it right over to a mushroom industry. And actually, Artie Needham was telling us last year that they need, I believe he said, 11,000 acres of hay to keep them busy through the year.
Yeah, it's a huge industry, and you know, a good broker can walk past 5 or 6 or 10 loads of hay and kind of have an idea where they would be useful.
Okay.
That maybe is mulch hay. This one still has a little life to the hay, and that would be fine for cattle. This one has a lot of protein, be good for dairy cows or brood mares on, you know, thoroughbreds or standardbreds. And so.
And for those people who don't know, the most expensive hay would go for the racehorse industry, probably.
Yes, we actually get some hay from out west, and they ship it on the railroads, and we take it off containers. And believe it or not, that they can ship it the other way to China and Japan, and the biggest market over there, because they don't grow their own, is for their dairy, and they're likely to get $600, $800 a ton delivered, but it has to be shipped and, you know, shipped over in containers.
Versus what would that same hay cost here?
Oh, probably half that, maybe $300 to $400.
Okay, gotcha. But you're obviously paying. Wow,
Yeah.
I had no idea we shipped.
Yeah,
to China.
Yeah, the dairy farmers, like when you go to a hay auction, basically if you see a beautiful load of alfalfa come in, it'll either be the dairy farmers or the horsemen that are bidding against each other. But the Amish and the dairy guys are not afraid to pay top dollar for their dairy.
Interesting. So it's not just going to racehorses from Delaware Park. It could be local dairy farms.
Exactly. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha. And then if you could a little bit, don't give me exact numbers, but what could someone who's in your line of work expect to make maybe as an annual salary? And then if you could talk a little bit about like gross versus net income, and if that fluctuates, if it's steady, if it's kind of flows with the market, kind of how that works.
I think it has a lot to do with your time and experience. You know, I know a lot of guys that just have small pickup trucks and they can make a living just buying and selling hay. We have a lot of people in this area that will buy hay at the auction, and if they have a big barn, they can keep hay in and have customers come to them. And I'd say probably, I'm thinking probably possibly like 30%. And you know, your markup, I'm going to say probably 40%, but you do have some expenses, and the bigger you get, like everything, you know, you're going to have employees and more trucks, and so you got to be a pretty good businessman too to keep your head above water.
Sure.
It's like everything.
So if you want to pan up and around real quick, so this was actually when I was a kid. This was Mark's barn, and plenty of times it came up here to play, whether I was supposed to or not, and it was stacked to the roof,
Yeah, we did.
full of hay and straw. So would you say? And then you probably had half a dozen or a dozen employees, maybe something like
Yes.
that. Okay.
When we were going, yeah.
And so, just for somebody out there that's kind of interested as far as like the dynamics of business, would you rather have kept it at 10 or so employees and a lot of trucks and a lot of hay, or is it a little bit easier just by yourself with a couple trucks?
That's a good question. They both have their advantages. Your chances of really expanding is much better, of course, if you have a good labor force and a number of trucks. But then again, you know, if you can work it by yourself or with one person, I know some guys that did a tremendous amount of work just by themselves, maybe a few people with casual labor, and they did fine too. So I don't really have a preference. You know, as I get older, of course, then you need to have more employees, and you can't do it all. But when you're a young guy and you're starting out, it's a good business to you can start out by yourself. Just, you know, I think I started out 40 years ago just putting the flyers in people's mailboxes that had courses, and you know,
Times changed a little bit.
That's right.
So for a young person who's thinking about getting into this industry, selling hay, selling feed, or just kind of involved in any type of providing goods for agriculture.
Mm-hmm.
What kind of advice or opinions might you give?
There's a lot of physical work to it, but it's a good job if you want to be your own boss and you want to be outside and work in nature and be around agricultural people. If you happen to like it, and I used to like trucks and I like the agricultural work, so it always worked well for me. And I'm sure lots of guys feel in the same way that want to be their own boss, and I'd recommend it. Mm-hmm.
And then what is the biggest advantage of, say, maybe your job versus someone who's going to an office every day, 9 to 5?
I think just you're making your own decisions for yourself and your self-worth versus being told what to do. Just the freedom, I think, of having your own business and making your own mistakes, and also then when you succeed, you can pat yourself on the back.
Sure.
And have a feeling of that you did it on your own.
Sure. Mm-hmm. Great. And so the whole point of this interview is we're trying to show our students that they might see someone baling hay and say that person's in agriculture, but they have no idea that the person who's the end user who's using the hay probably has to go through 3 or 4 or 5 people such as yourself before they can even give that hay to the horse or the cow.
Quite often.
Not to mention a vet, like a feed specialist, say even a tractor dealer, a mechanic
Truck
to come
drivers,
out.
yeah.
Truck drivers. Okay, so so we're trying to show the other side of ag.
Oh, it's a huge business. Yeah, it's huge. I don't know what the statistics are, but I know with the racetracks, they employ a lot of people and keeps a lot of guys working.
And I've also noticed it's a pretty small world as far as, like, for example, apartments here that the last 3 tenants have all been from the racetrack where they were exercise horses. A couple of your tenants have been the same thing, whether trainers or vets and things like that. And it kind of seems like a small world that for the 6 months or so that they're here in the summertime for Fair Hill, they really impact our local economy as well.
Oh yeah, definitely. That's for sure. Yeah, there's a lot of, especially like we were talking about. We were buying stuff from the west, from Washington State and Idaho, and it affects the rail. And we buy from lots of maybe 30 or 40 different farmers from Gettysburg to the Poconos that we've known over the years, and they'll deliver their hay and straw to us. And it's a big market, and it's a big trickle down effect.
Impacts a lot more people than just our
Yes.
community.
Yes.
Yeah. Great. All right. Well, I appreciate you taking the time, and hopefully some kids will get some good stuff out of this. And
Hope so.
I appreciate it.
Happy to help.
Thank you.